Okay, so what is the value of 2 to the half power? And that's the question we have today. So before I start, can we think about this? Pause the video and let's think about this. Okay, we're back. So what is the value of 2 to the 1/2 power? This is one response you can have is this way. Let me give you one possible response. The answer, if I tell the answer first, one possible way is going to be the answer would approximately 1.5. And you may wonder, how did you get that? Well, this is my reasoning now, so you can follow me, see if that makes sense. So I'm going to start with, how about, let's start with the powers. What is the 2 to the 0 power? Well, since anything to 0 power is equal to, you all know this, right? 1. And what's the 2 to the first power? That's equal to 2, right? You may think, well, what are you talking about? Well, we're going to go back to that answer. I'm trying to explain what the 1.5, where the 1.5 comes from. So if you look at the exponent right here, 0 and 1, we can think now the 1/2 power will fit in between these two, right? Since it's a power 0 and 1, 1/2 will fit in between these two numbers, right? So I can say now, what's my reasoning here? So the 2 to the 1/2 power will fit in between these two. But look at the value. 2 to the 0 power is equal to 1, value 1, and 2 to the first power, 2 to the first power is equal to 2. So the value of 2 to the half power, so look at the exponents right here. So it's a 0 here, and you have 1 here, right? And look at this, it's a half power. So since it's sitting between the value of 1 and 2, I'm guessing this might be the 1.5. It's just a guess. We're not sure if it's exactly 1.5, but this is what we have. Another way to think about this is, so what we're saying is, we're saying the 2 to the 1/2 power is sitting between 2 to the 0 power and 2 to the first power, right? And 2 to the 0 power is equal to 1. I mean, no. Yeah, it's 1. 0, anything to 0 power is equal to 1. What about 2 to the first power? Well, that is exactly 2, right? So this is the 2 to the 1/2 power is sitting between the value of 1 and 2. But what is 2 to the half power then? Well, it's a number between 1 and 2, right? So we're guessing probably it's 1.5. I'm not sure it's exactly 1.5, but it's about 1.5. Make sense? It's going to be a number between 1 and 2. Okay? So let's look at the graph. This might help you. So I'm going to show you the graph here. See if you can see the screen. I'm going to put it on. So we can go to y equal button if you have a graphing calculator, or you can go to Desmos. You can see that this 2 to the half power is coming from this function, 2 to the x power, this exponential function that we're talking about. But this happens to, x happens to be 1/2 in this case, right? So we're going to graph this, say where the 1/2 is sitting on the graph. So if I push graph button, this is what I see. I can also use the trace button right here, trace. So if I push trace, you can see the cursor moving around. So if I move that cursor, you can use the arrows right here to the left. When x is 0, I'm moving it to where the x is 0. So you can see the x is equal to 0 here. You can see the coordinate here and the y coordinate here. The calculator shows you the coordinates. So you can see the x is 0. When x is 0, it's y is equal to 1. And that's what we have. But that's the value here, right? So let's move that cursor along the curve to when x is 1. So that's where the x1 is. Then I can see the x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 2, then the values are 2. But our question is, what if the exponent is 1 point around between 1 and 5. So we got 1.5. So if I move this cursor between those two, like a 1/2, so this is going to be 2 to the 1/2 power, right? You can see that x is a 0.48. So let's see if I can get closer to half. Well, there we go. That's the closest I can get with the calculator. So it's a 0.515. Look at the y value here. It's a 1.42. You can see that it's not exactly 1.5, is it? Well, look at the x value. We went over the half, but the y value still is a 1.42. So it's not exactly 1.5. So this is going to be close to 1.4. It's a little less than 1.5, actually. This is the exact value right here, right? So this is something to think about. So I want you to think about then then your question for next lesson is, what is the exact value of 2 to the 1/2 power? Okay, so that's my question for our next lesson. Thank you.